Hi y'all! In this video, I'm going to talk to you all about another literary technique, a tool that a writer can use to help their reader understand what's going on. Now, we've already talked about figurative language and imagery. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about tone. Now, you're probably already familiar with tone because we use tone in our everyday lives. We adopt a certain attitude or emotion whenever we're talking to someone so that they can understand what we're trying to communicate. So think about this quote. I'm going to text your mom and show her what you wrote. Now, if we were just going to say this, we would adopt a certain tone. It could be a positive tone. I'm going to text your mom and show her what you wrote. This helps the person I'm talking to understand that when I text their mom, it's just going to be positive, a positive phone call home. But I could also adopt a very different tone. I'm going to text your mom and show her what you wrote. That tone is negative, maybe even a little threatening. That helps the person I'm talking to understand that the outcomes of this phone call, this text message, are not going to be good for them. Now, I was able to convey all of that just by changing the tone of my voice so that it would convey a certain attitude. But in writing, we don't really have that. We can't really have the words come off of the page with a certain attitude, okay? And if you just saw this sentence, I'm going to text your mom and show her what you wrote, you would be a little bit confused. Is this a positive tone? Is this a negative tone? You might not even understand what's going to happen next. What happened next? If you made a prediction, your predictions would be all over the place. The student in question here is going to be punished. Or the student in question is going to get lunch out at McDonald's because the writing was so beautiful. So whenever a writer is writing, they have to really think carefully about the tone that they're conveying. And so writers make sure that they convey a certain tone so that their writers will feel a very specific feeling by carefully choosing their words. They pay a lot of attention and think very, very deeply about the types of words that they're using so that their readers can feel exactly what they want them to feel. Now, I have an example of what this can look like. Same quote about texting the mom. But think about how it's changed and how I've helped the reader to feel a very specific feeling. Tears welled in her eyes as she read the kind words. I'm going to text your mom and show her what you wrote. Now, this is a lot clearer to the reader how they should be feeling. And it's a lot clearer to the reader what's going on in the speaker's mind. I know that the words on the page that this person read are kind words. And I also know that the person's reaction is that tears well in her eyes. So I know that after reading the kind words, that this person was moved deeply. But she's not outright bawling. She's not sobbing. Tears are welling in her eyes, so they're just pooling up right here in the bottom of her eyes. So this shows that this person is incredibly touched, but is trying to hold it together. This one sentence really conveys the attitude that the writer wants you to feel. It helps you to understand that this next quote, I'm going to text your mom and show her what you wrote, is spoken with kindness, or maybe even with the emotion of gratitude behind it. And this use of tone also helps the reader to understand what might happen next if they were going to make a prediction. I know that the outcome of this text message is going to be positive. I know that the person who this teacher is talking to is not going to get in trouble. They'll probably get some kind of reward for writing such kind things. So this brings me to why a writer would be aware of tone and making sure that they're using the right words to convey a tone. So the function of tone, or the job of tone, is to really show a reader how they need to be feeling. How they need to be feeling about an event, something that happens that carries the plot along in your book, how they might feel about a character. Maybe a character always speaks with a very boastful tone. That would help the reader to understand that something is going on with this character, that this character is really prideful. And then tone can also help a reader to understand how they should feel about a topic. If a writer is using a very serious tone to talk about Ebola, then a reader will understand that Ebola is no joke. But if a writer was using a very light tone to talk about Ebola, then the reader would think that that's a really laughing matter. So, we now have 3 tools that a reader and a writer can use to help the reader understand what's going on in the story. We have figurative language, we have imagery, and now we also have tone, the careful choice of words that a writer uses in order to convey a certain attitude or a certain emotion. See you next time.